Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to discuss the season finale of Star Wars Andor. It was called Rick's Road, and goodness gracious, what a finale it was. Just an excellent hour of television. It was fantastic. It really was. And I'm going to do a breakdown of what took place in the episode, but I just wanted to say at the outset that this was an excellent episode, a great finale for season one, and I just loved it. Before I get into the breakdown, if I could ask for a favor, you've clicked on the thumbnail, you started watching the video. Could you maybe stick around for a little bit and not bail on me right away? Because it really tanks my analytics and my viewer retention numbers, which actually hurts the channel. So if you could stick around for a couple of minutes, maybe skip ahead to the middle of the video and then watch another minute or so, it would really be appreciated. Okay, so as I said, it was called Rick's Road, which of course is the name of, I guess, the high street in Cassian's hometown on Ferrix. And as it begins, Dedra lands on Ferrix in an Imperial shuttle in the dark of night. It was a very cool scene, actually. She then goes about town incognito as Vel's girlfriend, whose name I guess is Cinta, tails her. Cassian's friends are all skittish because they know he might show up, and things are very tense. You can cut the tension in town like, almost with a knife. Meanwhile, one of Cassian's associates is building some kind of a device, which I suspect is a bomb of some kind. On Coruscant, Mon has an argument with her husband in the car, in front of her driver, during which she accuses her husband of gambling, which I guess is something he's promised not to do after having been a bit of a gambler in the past. He insists that he hasn't been gambling and that he couldn't if he wanted to because he wouldn't have the money to gamble with. And it's apparent that her accusation, which I think did in fact catch her husband by surprise, was only made against him without any warning so that her driver would overhear them discussing it, even though she asked him to engage the backseat privacy mode, because she's trying to create a sort of alibi to explain missing money. So she ambushed the husband with this accusation, which of course he denies, probably because he isn't actually gambling. So the driver overhears it, even though he was asked to engage the privacy mode so that he wouldn't overhear them. So I think it's clear, A, that he's listening to her, and that she knows this, that he's listening to her on a regular basis. And she knows this or suspects this and planted this accusation towards her husband, hoping it would get back to the Empire to put them off the scent of thinking that her movement of money in her accounts is suspicious versus explainable by, at least in part, by the husband's supposed gambling. Anyway, I thought it was really cool. Vel and Cinta reunite, and it seems like they're there to get to Cassian before the Empire does. Cassian indeed does arrive home, and we see him have a flashback to when he was younger and working with Clem on something. He then lays low and listens to Nemik's very stirring manifesto that was talked about back in one of the earlier episodes before the heist. And it's actually a very poignant passage that he listens to. It was very rousing.
There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And then remember this. The Imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. And know this. The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try.
We then see that Mon's driver did indeed report what he heard to the ISB, which acknowledges that gambling losses would explain how Mon's accounts have been showing weird money movements. Luthen then arrives on Ferrix, where apparently the ISB is looking to kill Cassian, but Dedra is working to ensure that he's captured alive. She wants to interrogate him. Cassian himself, meanwhile, seems headed out to try to rescue Bix all alone. Mr. B and his bonnet, whose name I guess is Cyril, and his sergeant also arrive on Ferrix, and it would seem now that the gang is all here. Luthen meets up with Vel, and it would seem that even he now is down with the plan of killing Cassian to deprive the Empire of whatever information he might give them about the rebellion if captured alive. The funeral begins, and various actors from the various involved entities join in discreetly. And there are two different processions that are marching towards, I guess, a central location. And as they're about to come together, the Imperial Guards scrambled to kind of block or redirect them for some reason. I don't know why they would do that. I guess they didn't want any one large crowd in the same place at the same time, but they failed to prevent that from happening. From her cell, Bix can hear the funerary music and she weeps. Dedra realizes where Cassian is. He's in a building, peeking through like a hole in the wall at the proceedings. She realizes he's there somehow, and she sends her men in, but he's already left. He's already gone down into the sewers and gotten out of there. The procession stops in the middle of the city, and the family robot, B, I guess they call him, projects a really huge hologram of Marva, and she gives a rousing speech, to use that word rousing again, in which she calls the Empire a disease and urges the people to fight the Empire. And then a freaking melee breaks out, a fracas, a ruckus, whatever you want to call it, a riot breaks out. Cassian reaches Bix and wants to get her out of there, get her out of the cell and where she's being held, but she's reluctant to leave out of fear, which was kind of chilling. It turns out that the device we saw being built earlier was indeed a bomb, a sort of grenade, I guess, and it gets thrown into the crowd with the apparent intention of taking out some Imperials. And when it lands near a bunch of other grenades, it sets them off, and a huge explosion goes off, and the square is covered in ash, and it's just chaos, and it was crazy. Cinta, during all of this, tails one of the Imperial operatives and kills him. Dedra manages to get herself knocked down in the fracas and is pulled to safety from being trampled or grabbed by someone that wants to kill Imperials by Cyril, for which she's seemingly thankful, but can't seem to utter the words thank you. I don't know why. Cassian then arrives with Bix at a ship that his friends have been preparing at the junkyard/ship depot, and he sends her off with them, gets her out of there, gets her to safety, but he doesn't go with them. On Coruscant, Mon's daughter is indeed introduced to that financier's son. Luthen arrives back at his ship, having left the melee, the fracas, and discovers Cassian there. And Cassian confronts him about having come to kill him. And when Luthen says, well, you're not making that easy, Cassian says, I will now, and asks Luthen to kill him or take him in, which I think meant take him into his organization. And Luthen sort of looks at his gun, doesn't kill Cassian, and smiles a wry smile as the episode ends. So, as I was saying earlier, I thought this episode was fantastic. It just had a whole bunch of moving parts, which, really created a tense picture, and at the same time, a picture of a society at a crossroads where, the Empire is trying to maintain control of everything. And as Nemec says in his manifesto, it's very taxing. It's very tiring to have to constantly be in a state of vigilance where you're trying to control everything. And where at the same time, the people, at least on Ferrix, but of course elsewhere, are at a breaking point where they just can't accept it anymore and are ready to finally stand up and push back, where before they kind of just went along with it and, worked within the confines of the Imperial occupation. And it just couldn't have been more excellent. And I think it just showed how this one character, this one guy, is such a focal point of everything. The Empire wants him. Luthen and his crew wanted him. His friends were looking out for him and conducting themselves in a way to service whatever it was he was going to do, come for the funeral, come to rescue Bix, come to fight. And, you know, Cyril and the sergeant kind of wanted him and wanted to be part of whatever happened with him because of how things went when they tried to capture him the first time or kill him the first time. And, in the end, I think Cassian has gotten to a point where, okay, I either want out of this life in the mortal way, or I want to take the next step and actually throw myself fully into being part of the rebellion, where, even though he took the job that Luthen offered him, the heist, after Luthen told him, why don't you do this and be part of something bigger, which he did not for that reason. He did it for the money and, because he was trying to get away from Ferrix and hide from whoever might be pursuing him for his activities that he was doing before that, stealing, little pieces of equipment and whatnot, and how he killed those people in the first episode. But then, having been through the heist and having dealt with those people, and then having gone to prison under the ever increasing heavy thumb of the Empire, and, with his mother gone, and after what they did to Bix, he's finally like, okay, kill me or take me in and let's do this. And I think that's a great evolution for the character. And of course, we know that evolution was coming because of the events of Rogue One. So it was good to see that he got there right at the end of this season, and it sets up season 2 perfectly. And in my view, season 2 cannot come soon enough. I wish they just did all 24 episodes at once so that I could continue watching them week after week without a wait in between. I, of course, wish they just released the whole thing, all at once for binging, but, it's Disney. So they're not going to. But yeah, I can't wait for season 2. I thought this was an excellent finale, an excellent season. It's an excellent show. I couldn't say, more positive things about it. It's just fantastic. I'm actually going to go rewatch Rogue One sometime soon, because when I first watched it, I kind of watched it with half an eye just so I could take it in on some level and be up to date on what was happening in, Star Wars land in terms of the films, because I didn't have the channel at the time. And when I watched it, I was sailing the high seas. If you catch me drift, me mateys. And so the version that I watched had a little bit to be desired in the quality department, and there might have been some things that I missed because they were maybe garbled in terms of audio, or the picture was a little bit askew and I couldn't see all the translations of the alien dialogue, so there might have been things I missed. So now that it's available on Disney, which I subscribe to from land the proper way, I'm going to watch it again, having seen this season, and I think it's going to be a much different experience, which I'm looking forward to. So, yeah. But that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully, some of you have watched all the way to the end. It really helps me out when you do that. So, please do that whenever you can. I'll be back with more content soon. Until I return, may the force be with you.